We're going to start off with JoBui talking about Porter. Jesus.
Words
Porter,
are hard.
Porter is it's a pretty good beer.
Porter,
I'm
yeah.
gonna keep my port. Yeah.
It's like a medium-bodied beer, really.
Hey everybody, welcome to Lions Pride Tavern podcast number 74. Tonight we find out how we did in this weekend's raid of Antorus the Burning Throne. And tonight our infamous series, Dancing with the Bosses, continues. But before all that, let's start off with introductions. I'm your host, Stafford. I play a Dwarven Beastmaster Hunter in the awesome game World of Warcraft. Next up is JoBui.
Hi, I'm JoBui. I play a Worgen Fire Mage.
And Lorelei.
Hi, it's Lorelei, your Night Elf Arms Warrior.
It's so weird.
I
Still
know,
weird.
I'm tripping over say arms, not fury.
And Epistle Up North.
I'm a Drenai Protection Paladin.
He knows exactly who he is.
Well,
And
No
Charity.
confusion.
Hi, I'm Charity. I play your Drenai Resto Shaman.
How are you guys this week?
Oh, I'm
Very
good.
good.
Yeah, not bad.
Just got back from a night of D&D.
No, that's
Awesome.
fun.
I
Yeah.
love it.
I
We did
wish
that
I
last
still had a
weekend.
D&D group. I used to have one, and now I don't. And sometimes it makes me a little sad.
Yeah.
I have all the new books.
I love 5th edition. It's awesome. It is
I'd
really
love to-
great.
I never got to play it with my D&D group I was with. We were playing whatever it was, like 3.5. And then the group split up just before we started 5th edition, and I never got to try it.
You know,
I
it's
got
gonna.
invited to do one, so I'm excited to do it.
Nice.
Finally, I've been wanting to.
My kids were gonna get into it, and I was gonna get them some books, but they decided, nah, we're gonna create our own. So they've created their own elaborate scenarios and game, and have a bunch of guys coming over and just having a lot of fun. So I, applaud their creativity.
Yeah,
That's cool.
that's always a good one. Yeah, Durag started up a D&D group with us, and we played last Sunday. It wasn't too bad.
Awesome.
Did you
yeah.
do 5th edition?
Yeah, and see, I quit playing at 3.5, so this is, I mean, it's not a lot different, it's still D&D, but yeah, it's 5th, so it's interesting. A lot more electronic. I've got electronic dice. I got my my character sheet on. Oh God, what is the place called? Orc something?
Oh, it's not D&D Beyond?
No, I haven't seen that one. I'll have to go check that one out.
That's good. You can get a lot of stuff there for free, or you can buy it.
Yeah, and see, a lot of this stuff is free. So it's called Orc Pub. So, and it's an org. So, they look for donations and stuff. But they got nailed for having content on there from TSR, and they had to take it all down. So they just got basic stuff. And if you want to go elaborate, then you have to type it all in yourself. So,
I haven't gotten into it yet, but I have an Oculus Rift, and I get into VR, and apparently there is D&D in VR that I can go play, where you're sitting around a table and you can reach out and move your character around on the table. You can throw dice, and you can even pull up a browser in midair next to you and look stuff up if you want to look up stuff.
well, Tabletop Simulator with Steam,
Yeah.
you can do all that. Yeah.
I think it might
Yeah.
be. It's either tabletop. Well, I know the Tabletop Simulator does it, and that's pretty cool. But this is in VR, so you're sitting in a room with other people, and you can talk to them and hear them and
Oh,
see them
nice.
sitting across from you and stuff like that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, it has VR capability, but we had one guy doing VR. We were playing Dungeon Deck, I think is what it's called. So it's basically a card game, of
Hmm.
D&D type thing, and he was having a heck of a time with the VR on it.
Oh yeah.
He wasn't able to flip the cards over where he wanted them, and it was kind of weird. But he was the only one in VR too.
It's a bit experimental still, but man, it would be really cool, especially for someone like me. I live in the middle of nowhere, and a small town, and there's not a lot of options for me to have like a live D&D game. So for me, VR is a really good option. I really hope they expand
Well,
on
you
that and
don't
make it good.
only have to do VR too. We're using a thing called Roll20, and it's so you can play with people online, because the people I'm going to play with are going to be in Florida.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen that as well. Yeah, I've seen some of the online stuff. I read a story about this guy. I guess he lives in Canada somewhere, who's had the same campaign going for something like 30 years or something.
Wow.
And yeah, he's the dungeon master, and his whole basement is like filled with all these miniatures and stuff, and he actually has like a portable webcam that he moves around on his like 3D, because he has like actual like a miniatures, only it's like every environment you can think of, and he has players who phone in or they webcam in, and they can see like where their characters, and he moves the camera around and while they're playing the game and stuff. It's pretty cool.
That would be cool. It's like playing World of Warcraft, but not.
Yeah, but
Right, but sitting at the table,
yeah, with yeah,
real people.
with no DM required in World of Warcraft, of course.
Well, hey, I have big news before we get started here. With how we did this weekend, we have an advertiser.
Yay!
Yay!
Oh,
For the-
there we are in the
yeah.
big leagues.
Yeah, for the entire month of February.
Special.
We've got the guys over at Nerdy Things Podcast, Kevin, Jules, and Tim, and I hope I said their names right. But they're going to be we're going to be playing this advertisement right here for the entire month. Are movies, gaming, TV, comics, and general nerdy culture your life? They are for the guys at Nerdy Things Podcast. There's no more entertaining way to stay up to date on your nerdy news than listening to the Nerdy Boys discuss this week's biggest hits before diving deeper into a main topic that's sure to tingle your nerdy senses. You can find a new episode every Thursday on the podcatcher of your choice. And on YouTube, they have exclusive extras added through the week, like movie reviews and more. Don't wait. Add Nerdy Things Podcast to your library as soon as you finish this episode. Links are in the description below.
Nice.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
That is really cool, and I
Nice.
can't imagine that you mispronounced Tim. I'm pretty sure you got that right.
I'm Tim the Enchanter. All right, let's
Some call him Tim.
some Tim. All right, we're getting off
you have to know
topic.
the movie.
Wrong,
You have to know
wrong,
the movie.
Yeah.
Timmy.
Let's find out how we did on this weekend's raid, JobUI.
All right. Well, on Friday we were going to do a similar thing as what we did last week, where we're going to skip some bosses. We accidentally, and it's kind of my fault because I think I said go to the exhaust. We went to the wrong place, and then people were like, "Oh, I need this for a quest." So we killed Iminar. Right after we did, so we get Guidotti Worldbreaker, then we killed Iminar, and then we went on and we killed Veramathros, then the Coven, and we took down Argus the Unmaker, and then we went on and we went into Heroic and got down Guidotti the Worldbreaker in Heroic all on Friday night. So we did an extra boss, and then we got through one of the bosses on Heroic on Friday, which was much better than the previous week. Then Saturday we came back and we did Fellhounds, and that took a couple of pulls, but we got that down. And then we went and did Irinar the Lifebinder, again, a couple pulls. We just had a little bit of a miscommunication on the first pull, got it down on the second. It was still fun. I really enjoyed it. And then we went on to take on Portal Keeper Hezebel. And that's where we spent the rest of the evening, was on Portal Keeper. We tried a bunch of different things to defeat the chaos of that fight, and we didn't. So that's where we left off.
Yeah, I thought we did really well.
Yeah.
No real complaints. I mean, now I think it's a matter of, getting our gear scores up to continue on, but
A little bit. I think that's going to be one of those fights that people are just going to have to get used to the chaos on. I actually think we should go for High Command next week instead of Portal Keeper first and see how we do on that.
yeah, we'll give it a shot. I mean, everybody says High Command's worse, but,
I
what
don't
the heck?
see, it seems like it's, to me, High Command, although you need 6 pod people in Heroic, it seems like it's a controllable chaos. Whereas in Portal Keeper, it's a little less control over the chaos. There's a lot going on in that fight, and there's a lot of movement running around. And I feel like with our group that I think we'll have better luck on High Command for now at least.
It's kind of the imps that are giving us the trouble, I would say.
Yeah, they are a bit of trouble.
Well, the imps, because you have to interrupt them. Because how did that go, Jobui? If one blows or one, it doubles the next one.
Yeah, basically what happens is they do a spell cast, and if they complete their spell cast, then they blow up and they're gone, right? They're gone, but they also buff all of the remaining imps that are still up with 100% extra damage. So then when they blow up, they do 200%. Well, the next one blows up, it does 200%. The next one after that, 3, 4, 5, 600%. If 6 of them were to go off, not that a group would survive 6 of them going off, because I think after like 3, you're dealing with like 2 to 3 million points of damage per explosion. So it gets really gnarly really fast.
Yeah, we felt that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's really dangerous for those to go off. I might even... I'm considering, like, the next time we go in there, I might even switch out legendaries, because I have a legendary that makes my dragon breath get like a lot of range and all that. So I might switch out my legendaries just for that fight, so I can interrupt all of them. Well, it doesn't really interrupt; it just disorients them for a second, so it interrupts their spell cast, and they have to start over at least.
Yeah. I mean, we just had a post on Facebook. Somebody's looking for your add-ons and WeCore add-ons. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just responded to him asking him which one in particular. But when I find out, then I'll let you know.
Something that will help our raids too, and I think it was 4 that brought it up tonight. Usually we don't take over the chat so much that we can't communicate, and we did that a lot tonight. Like,
Yeah.
People were getting really chatty, and it was hard to communicate interrupts, and at some point you could tell people were getting frustrated because they're like, hello. But
Yeah, there was
usually
quite a bit
we're
of
good
crosstalk.
about that, but we had a lot of chatter tonight, and it was hard to communicate.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to agree there. And sometimes, when we're comfortable with the fights, that tends to increase a little bit the cross chat, and then in those instances, it's not really a problem.
Yeah, but when it's progression.
Right. On progression, you got to kind of knuckle down, and you can't be just chit-chatting, talking about, oh, I saw this movie last week, and or whatever.
Or even
But it
say,
was a good
hey,
movie.
this happened, and then keep going on about it. Just, okay, it happened. We need to move on.
Yeah. Sometimes like somebody will die, and they're like, I died. I stepped on this thing, and then it knocked me off the edge, and then
I don't know
fell.
where it went. Yeah.
And then I was staring up at the sky, and we're like, just be dead.
Yeah. That's
We're
not how it
trying to
went.
say, res the tank or something.
Dead men tell no tales.
Oh, they do in WoW.
Yeah, they do a lot.
That's funny. So, so the path of our progression has been, in Heroic, has been Guidotti and then Fellhounds. And this is the one, oh no, then we go to
ENR.
ENR. and we usually get those 3 down. Those are getting out. ENR we had a little bit of trouble with.
It's just miscommunication.
Yeah. And that wasn't too bad. I still love that fight, but
I know, me too. Even with the chaos and stuff, in fact, I think I love the chaos about that fight because it's something you can actually handle, but it's fun and exciting.
You guys are always like, that's my favorite fight, and I think I didn't like it as much because I felt like it was too easy, like it wasn't a challenge, and this one, being heroic, it's a challenge enough that it's fun for me.
Well, that's good.
You're still talking about ENR?
The life
The
bringer,
life binder?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She thought it was too easy on normal.
I felt like we were just like, oh, la 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 la. And I mean, it was fun, but I like a challenge. I like, oh, we gotta go over here, and we're going over here. Oh, there's something, come over here, everybody over here. Okay. And we're going as a team, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah, you want to be on the edge of your seat.
Yeah.
And, well, I'll tell you, maybe it's just because, maybe it's in part because of, like, raid leading or something, but I really like the fights where, like, on normal, I don't really have to say much on that one. We just kind of do it and have fun. And so, like, I can just be like, yay, I do it. Yeah, I killed the stuff.
Get
Yay.
it. My best friend is the same way. Her favorite fight is Veramathras, and she's DPS. Because all she has to do is go back and forth. So, I mean, if that's what you're into, Joe.
No, I don't. It's not that. It's not that so much. It's just when I can focus on just what I'm doing.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Yeah, when I have to pay attention to what I'm doing and what 30 other people are doing, then it's not as much fun. But
see,
I mean,
he likes it when he says, or not when he says, but he likes it when Jordan says, "Geez, JoeBui, you're beating me in DPS." He likes that.
That's his happy spot. Yeah.
I like the Veramathras fight.
It wasn't Veramathras. I was beating him on a couple of fights this week.
Speaking of which, I love how yesterday everybody ganged up on JoeBui's ad just so he couldn't get the high DPS on his ad.
They did,
bullies.
Man.
Poor
they
Joe.
Were, man. I'd have had it this week too. And then Stafford is all like,
JoeBui's
ad.
Oh no, it was you, because then everybody went, oh, okay.
No, it was Dizzy that said it. No, and then I turned around and said, "Oh yeah, let's make sure JoeBui doesn't get his down by himself."
Yeah.
You started it on the podcast.
I'd have had it.
Well,
man.
that I did.
Hey,
I ran over there and beat on it a little bit.
I was gonna say, Lorelai, we need to stay out of this one, Lorelai. But never mind, you're on your own now.
No.
Bullies.
That's right. I know deep in my Worgen heart that I had it this week.
And what was up with changing us all into Worgens too? What was up with that?
I didn't do that. Somebody else did it. Somebody else was turning people into me.
Yeah, I was like, man, I look just like JoeBui. I got a big head.
Oh boy.
And big teeth and big ears.
What big eyes you have.
Yeah, better to eat you with or something. Yeah, and then Tappacino was like, "Oh, I look like JoeBui," and at first she was like kind of put off by it, but about halfway through the fight, she's like, "I kind of like this. It looks good."
Yeah, she was funny. That was on Argus.
Yeah, somebody was like appearance swapping people on Argus.
Bored.
I like how we're getting more organized on that boss, though. Like people are starting to pick it up, and it's becoming fun chaos.
Yeah, we're still having issues with placing the orbs, though. Sometimes they get out there right, and sometimes it's like, no, that's not where it goes.
Yeah, but it
still has problems with left and right.
I feel like
left and back or right and back.
I'm quivering in my seat, wondering if they're gonna move.
Oh man, the first, like, I've seen, like, I think in all of our polls of taking down Argus, I think I've seen those 2 orbs be placed correctly about 3 times.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say. 3 times.
Yeah, about 3 times, I think. The rest of the time, it's like 1 right on top of the group and 1 way off to the side.
Is when they are so panicked and they're like, I gotta take this somewhere. So they just kind of go out into nowhere, and JoeBui's, he's gonna just stand over there.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, he's just going into left, whatever. It's way over there. If you need it, it's over there.
It's the I give up.
It's so funny. His commentary, live commentary.
Yeah. But Argus went pretty smooth. We one-shotted it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what, like I said.
Yeah.
For us, it's getting a lot more organized chaos.
Oh,
Yeah.
and we need to update our fans on how many trinkets dropped.
Oh yeah, we
Oh,
got
yeah.
six this week.
6 Twinkets.
I
Yeah.
got mine.
Nice.
Awesome. Congrats.
I
How many
still haven't seen one.
upgrades did you have when you got
Oof.
yours?
I think I have. Well, I don't have the orange legendary. I have the purple one.
Well, yeah. The
But
There's
purple one.
little
That's it.
upgrade
I've got
thingies.
either 3. I think it's 3 because I'm behind on one of the Argus fights.
Yeah,
Well, I'm at 970. I don't know how much that is.
mine's at 965. They start at 940 if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So I don't know, but mine is now at 965. So I'm one behind you there.
And what do the upgrades do? 5?
Yeah, 5
They did
each.
5 each.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
5
So I
each,
got
up
5
to
each.
1,000.
So I've got 2 upgrades. I'm just waiting on my Twinket.
Yeah, when I sim it out, it shows it as not being an upgrade for me yet.
Yeah, we need more people to have it on in the raid for it to be helpful.
I know, and if I was wearing it, then it would be helpful to more people. But
Yeah.
we
all have to go, hey, we're going to wear this. Okay.
I know. I gotta hit that point where I go, maybe it's a DPS loss for me individually, but as a whole, it's gonna help. So it's good for the many or something.
Well, I know when I did my simulation, it wanted me to switch. I finally got my 4th piece. Well, I've had 4 pieces, but not the right ones. So now I've got 4 of this raid's tiers, and I'm wearing 2 of Nighthold's tier. Or Nighthold? Is that what it was?
Yeesh.
Yeah.
Two,
No,
I know, right?
Tomb
It
of
made me go
Sargeras.
backwards.
Tomb
Yeah,
of
Tomb of
Sargeras. If you're
Sargeras.
still wearing Nighthold gear,
Yeah.
then maybe you should bring a different tune.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, Tomb of Sargeras. So I had a 4 and a 2, but then I had a Warforged, heroic Warforged drop for a helmet, and which is good because I hated the helmet I had. It looked terrible. And it made me switch that right over and then get rid of my 2-piece. So I was like, oh, good.
Well, I mean,
I'm back up
it was
there.
covering. Does this one cover your face?
Aw.
Do I need to respond to that?
It covers your dwarven face, so it might look better. I'm just
I
saying.
had somebody tell me tonight that it looks like I look like Gimli.
You do. You do.
So there you go. So,
I'm just giving you a hard time.
I know. All right. Well, let's move on. We gotta start talking about the dancing with the bosses this week, because this week's going to be exciting. So this is something we put together a little while back. That this is going to be for the normal boss. This is what we do in each one of our positions. So Jobui is going to talk about the Portal Keeper, Hazabel.
All right, so on Portal Keeper, the jobs can vary a little bit depending on what you've been assigned and how your group is handling the raid itself. But basically, my job is to hit the boss as hard as I can in your usual fashion at the beginning of the fight, and then at about 90% health, the boss is going to open up a portal, and a number of people are going to go up that in that portal along with the tank and some healers, and they're going to DPS down a flame ad. It's like a mini boss, and up there are some flames that you can grab, and those flames can be useful over on the purple platform. So you can grab one of those like after you kill the boss, and you take it over to the purple platform, and that'll allow people to do things like heal and be able to target the boss, I think, or see the boss or something. We usually have them up there, so I don't worry about it too much. But basically, I kill the ads, I attack the boss, and I go up on each of the different portals. And the way we handle it is pretty much the DPS are going to stack underneath the big ads up on each of the portals, except for the fire one. Fire one, you just stay spread out, and then anytime fire shows up under your feet, you move out of it. And that's pretty much it. I'm just dodging like what effects come up. There's like a big black effect that shows up on the ground on the main platform that you have to move out of. There's some ads that you need to kill, and there's a beam, the big green beam that goes across the platform that you need to step out of. But otherwise, it's pretty much just kill the ads first, kill the boss. When the platform's open, go up on the platform, kill the mini boss that's up there, and that's pretty much the whole fight. We hero usually on normal after the purple platform. After we do the third platform, then we hero and finish off the boss, and that's pretty much it.
Now, do you have any rhyme or reason to who you pick to take the flame over to the Shadow Realm?
Yeah, I usually try and pick people who are highly mobile. Mages have blink, hunters have disengage, which gives them a speed boost after they disengage, I think. And demon hunters have their demon huntery things.
Their jump glide.
Yeah, well, not just a jump glide. They have like a charge thing too that they can like shoot forward. It's a type of attack, but it can be used for just mobility as well. Just anybody who has good high mobility is a good option for carrying those across, just because they can get it done quicker and get it back to the fight.
Yep. Okay. Lorelei from Melee DPS.
Yeah, I mean, I think our job as melee is actually just pretty simple. We just have to stick with the boss. We have to make sure that we're not stuck in the collapsing world. We have to get out of that big circle as the tanks are taking her across the room. It's our job mostly to keep crowd control on the imps and keep them from casting, so we're going to interrupt as best we can. We do have to stay out of that big green line, and I think in heroics we get 3 of them now,
Yeah, and heroics
rather than 1 or 2. And then if we're picked to go up into the portals, we have to take out the mini boss. We have to interrupt when we can, and then get people out of the webs in the spider part. And that's really, it's kind of an easy job for us. It's just stick on the boss, stay out of stuff, and do some crowd control if you can. So I mean, it's an interesting fight, and it's just making sure that you just get as much damage done as you can when you're either on the platform or up in the portals.
All right. Epistle from Tanking.
Tanking's a little more fun for us because there's really a few things that need to go on. You have to kind of plan, be thinking ahead and getting ready. So there's a stacking debuff that goes alternating onto tanks. What you don't want to do is we have to run up to one of those portals when they become available, and one of the tanks has to do that. The real trick is you can't have a tank that's got a bunch of debuffs on them already staying down below. So you got to time the taunt off so that say I'm down below and I've got 3 stacks of this debuff. It actually does raid-wide damage if it goes higher, so you don't want to have that stacking. So you want to really quickly get that debuff dropped. But then that means you can't neatly go, okay, this tank's going to go to the portals and this tank's going to stay down below. You have to respond in the moment, or even just figure out, 30 seconds before who's likely going to do it and when do you actually swap debuffs. Because when the other tank goes up to the portal, the whole time you're there, you're getting this stacking debuff again down on the tank, which can cause all manner of troubles for everybody. So it's kind of fun. You have to be planning that, and at the same time, there's the that large AOE expanding world, or whichever the name of it is, that can really do a number on you in the raid if you don't move out of the way on that one. So even lately, we've been trying to figure out how do we optimize that so that we don't have as much damage done. And so we kind of plan ahead how we're going to get from point A to point B.
Do you have to use a speed boost to do that each time?
Well, that's what I've been trying to tweak lately, because, I've got the speed boost. Darg doesn't always have one available. And so what I've tended to do is I'm starting to rotate the boss around, because, when you start a fight and you get the hang of it, you don't think about shortcuts. So tonight we were thinking a lot about how to optimize the fight. So instead of well, we have to pull the boss all the way to the edge of the circle for a variety of reasons. But rather than standing at that edge of the circle as we do as the tanks, it just occurred to me tonight, the obvious thing to do is to rotate around so that the boss is facing more toward the raid, but towards where you want to run. And you can do that without even moving the boss. And you've saved yourself a whole bunch of steps when that expanding world shows up. So it's kind of, again, we're just always trying to think ahead, optimize, and plan ahead on that fight, which makes it, I find, a fascinating and fun little challenge.
All right. And Charity from Healing.
Well, right now for normal, we have to decide on our healers who's staying up and who's going down for portals because we have to split them up a certain way. On normal, we have one go up for the first two, and I believe two go up for the last one. And we have on heroic, we split the heals evenly. We haven't figured out that one perfectly yet, but that's our plan right now. And then whichever group I'm in, if I go up with the portal group, then I try and keep my AoE down and a totem down and make sure that I'm helping interrupt the boss, because if we don't interrupt, we take a lot of damage. And I try and help get people out of the spider casings if I'm in on that portal. If I'm on the bottom, I try and keep the AoE up towards the tanks and a hot on them because that debuff tends to do a lot of damage. I also have to watch out for people getting hit by the collapsing world and the reality tears, especially on heroic because we get 3 of them. I believe it's reality tears is what it's called. And then I think one of the biggest things that people don't think about is that the fire, when the people that are transferring the fire, it does damage to them the longer they have it and while they have it. So I try and time my heals and hots so that when they run out the portal to go into the next portal, I heal them up. Because if I don't, they usually are either really low or about to die by the time they come out if they don't time their cooldowns correctly either. Other than that, it's all about utility. I'm trying to interrupt things that I need to help interrupt and heal the heck out of everybody. Because on normal, it's less chaotic. There's not as much going on and people stack a little bit better. But those reality tears spread us out a lot. So it's a lot more difficult for a shaman anyway to heal people up. So I'm just healing my booty off. But other than that, yeah, that's about it.
Why do you put a second healer on the third portal? Is that a more dangerous portal for the healers?
Yeah, there's a lot more damage going out on that one because of the interrupt stuff and because of the spider stuff. Because the spiders, what they do is they wrap people up and you have to get them out while they're wrapped up, and we're still taking damage while we're in there.
Yeah, and
the entire raid takes damage.
Yeah, and the healer could get targeted for that. So having 2 healers up there means that one healer is not in the webbing if the other healer does get in the webbing.
Because if I got wrapped and that AoE is going out, everybody's dead.
Okay, yeah. Good to know. You can definitely tell that's our progression because we not only talked about normal, but we talked about the heroic version of the same fight.
Yeah, that's what we're working on.
Yep, that's where our brain is.
Yeah, I tried to avoid talking about the heroic version.
We didn't want the JobUI alarm going off.
Yeah.
No, I think we're doing all right on the heroic version. I mean, it's getting there. I mean, if it wasn't and if it was really easy, the game would be boring.
Well,
so,
I'm absolutely not looking for easy by any means.
Right. I'm just saying if it wasn't a challenge, but the cool thing is that we all play during the week and we get better gear, we get better things that we, that can help us out for our DPS and our healing and so on. And the next time we do it, we progress a little further and progress a little further. So, and that's, we're talking, what do we have tonight? 27?
Yeah.
28.
Yeah.
I think we only had 2 spots.
The other thing is, I mean, on a lot of these, sometimes it takes a little time for us to figure out the strategy that's going to work for us. And I don't think that we have the strategy down pat for what's going to work for us yet. That's kind of why I want to move over to taking on the
High command.
the high command next week, just because we have a strategy for that one already in play, and so that'll give us another option of someplace to get some more gear, get a little more success in heroic, while we still work out the portal keeper strategy that we're going to use. That's going to work for us.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Ladies first.
I was gonna say that the same thing, that it's important for anyone that's running a raid that to understand that just because Fat Boss says they do it this way, just because this group says they do it that way, that works for them. And your group makeup may be better at something else, or they may be lacking in some class department that doesn't have certain things, and you have to figure out what works for your group. Because if you have, say, a lot of people that can do one thing, but not a lot of people that can do another, you're not going to be able to do it the same way another group does it. And I think that's the biggest issue when it comes to raid groups, is they just beat their head against the wall trying to do it the way the videos say. But it's not always going to work for you. So you need to try and figure out what's going to be best suited for your group.
Yeah, you really do need to know your team.
Yeah, we usually do that. I mean, we look at the videos as a guideline. We look at some of the strats we'll see around, and then occasionally, we'll get a little tip from another raid group that's having some success doing it a certain way, and maybe we can adapt what they're doing to our group. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends. Sometimes, like, it's just a matter of doing it, and then like kind of observing, like, where are we going wrong, what's the trouble spots, what can we clean up where, and then figuring out, okay, well, let's try this thing which should alleviate that one problem that we're dealing with there. And sometimes that's all it takes, is just fixing that one little thing that's wiping the raid, and then once we fix that, the rest of it just goes real smooth. And
I think that the trick here tonight, I think, for us was that we know what the problem is, but we're not quite sure on what the right fix for it is at this point.
Right.
And that's the part that you start to feel like you're banging your head against the wall, because we've been very successful with getting other resources and improving our team and improving our gear. And this is one of those times where it's like, okay, here's a hiccup, here's a bump. And so probably that is why it's a wise thing to say, yeah, let's shift gears a little. Let's try another boss, try a little more perspective while we're still gearing up and skilling up. Because I know from a tank perspective, I've been thinking, okay, how do I reposition? How do I tweak? How do I get just a little more efficient? But these are, those are things where I'm just trying to squeeze out that little bit more of efficiency from my tune and the way I'm running that particular boss fight. But it feels like it's not that we need to have that little squeeze at this point, that little improvement. It looks like there's some core pieces in that fight that we're just not quite, aligning everything perfectly.
Yeah, I think another thing that's contributing to the feeling of chaos on that fight, which is primarily coming from having so much of the floor taken up by those green beams that go across there, because all the other mechanics are pretty much the same. They're just hitting harder, but the beams are forcing us into these tiny corners, and I think that is kind of giving everybody and because the explosions are also so important, it's giving them a sense of panic, and there's a lot going on. I mean, even for myself, I noticed a little bit of that, where I'm trying to hit those imps. I'm trying to interrupt them. I'm trying to kill them. The green beams are trying to chase me around the floor. I'm worried about, is everybody else on? Are they on the imps? Are they killing them quick enough? Are they being interrupted well? So I'm paying attention to other things besides even what I'm doing, and I'm sure other people are as well. And I think once we get down a little bit better on the strat and we get more comfortable with it, I think that'll get a little bit easier as well. which is just going to
Yeah.
take time and practice.
And that sort of distraction and chicken without a head scenario is probably meaning that people are more likely to make errors. Because if I reflect back, there's one or two things I did that were like, whoa, I should know better than that.
You died like 3 times on one pull, I think.
Yeah, and one of them was my error, for sure, but the other 2 weren't, and so that's where it's kind of like, and one might have been somebody else's error, but it's not about blame. It's really about that there are more errors going around right now because we're still getting the feel for it.
Right, but that's progression, right?
Yeah.
Yep,
That's what I was
Well,
saying.
a
That's progression.
good example of that is the dogs boss fight, where everybody's saying that they spread out, but it works better for our group to stack up because of the way our players play and because of my AoE.
Yeah, no, they're talking about, because what they do is they use their own personal cooldown
Yeah.
to counteract the big green circle. Yeah.
It just helps our group makeup to stack up and then spread out for those certain parts because of our healer base, because of the way we heal.
Yeah, I also get curious about. I was curious about that particular one, and I was asking about it, but I didn't really get a full-fledged answer on it. Just because, I mean, even if I wasn't going to take his advice, one of our raid members had suggested that we just spread out kind of thing, or that's how his group does it, kind of thing. And I was curious about it, but I wondered, does he run with fewer people? Does he run with the same amount of people? Kind of thing. There's a lot that plays into how are you going to deal with that mechanic. Not just like, oh, well, this is how you deal with that mechanic. Well, yeah, that's how you deal with that mechanic when you have 10 people in the raid group. Or maybe if you have 15 people. But what if you have 27? Does it still work?
Like we said, it depends on your raid group and how your raid group is made up.
Sure.
Yep.
Absolutely. Every time.
Very interesting because, like you were saying about the videos, you can watch the videos, and they're not so much rules as they are kind of a guideline.
Yeah.
Come on, what movie? Come on. It's one of my favorite pirate lines.
Oh,
All
is
right.
that
Pirates of the Caribbean,
Pirates of the Caribbean? Okay.
The code. It's not so much
code.
rules, but it's,
Guidelines.
Well, it's time. I hear the music. It's time for Lorelei's Pet Battle Minute.
Hello, everybody. The latest patch has brought us a sweet little surprise. Toddle, the baby Tortolin, is the new pet you'll get when you pre-order Battle for Azeroth, so hop on over to the store and get your copy now. Early data mining has given us some rumors of some new pets that may be coming our way as we battle to save our world once again. We can look forward to a dart, which is probably going to be like a wasp, a demon goat, something named Francois, a new tiki mask, and not one, but 2 enchanted ships. I can't wait to see how we'll get those ships. For you PvP lovers, there will be a new achievement and award. If you win 10 queued pet battles using teams of 1 family, you will earn the Family Brawler achievement and a Master's Trainer's Tabard. And this last bit isn't about a pet you can battle with, but it's a cute thing that Blizz has been doing since Pandaria. Do you remember the dog that you rescued and brought back to your farm? Well, Dog showed up at your garrison. I hope you paid attention to that because he loved you so much. But since you haven't been keeping the old garrison or farm going, and you know who you are, Dog will come to see you. As you wander around Dalaran, be on the lookout for a small brown pebble. When you find it, take it back to your garrison and find Dog. Hand it over and he'll follow you back to Dal and take up residence in the pet shop. I love that Blizzard keeps doing these little things to keep old content alive. And that's my Pet Battle Minute for today.
I'm sensing a little frustration there, maybe a little repetitiveness when you said saving our world once again.
I mean, how many times have we saved Azeroth?
From the Horde.
From the Horde, from the Fel, from this, from that, from a drag. God in heavens. When do we save Azeroth?
Can you imagine what James Bond felt like? I mean, come on.
I know.
because James Bond always saves the world. Every movie, that's all he does. Come on.
I think most movies are about that and love. So.
All right, next up is
Getting Deeps with JobUi.
There are 3 basic phases for most DPS players: opening, filler, and burn. Understanding what to do in each of these phases is a great way to improve your DPS. First, the opening. Your opening begins just before the start of the fight with a potion, also known as a pre-pot. Quaffing a potion before combat begins will allow you to use a second potion later in the fight. If you have a spell with a long cast time that you plan on using at the start of the fight, begin casting when appropriate, so you will finish the cast just as the countdown timer for the start of the fight expires. In my case, I like to serve up a pyroblast first. It takes 3.7 seconds for me to cast. So with about 3.5 seconds on the timer, I start casting. Some spells, such as combustion, are castable while casting other spells, so I will hit combustion a fraction of a second before my first pyroblast is finished casting. From there, I go into a hard burn, using all of my big damage abilities and cooldowns. Using them right away at the beginning of the fight means that they will have more time to come off cooldown for me to use again later. Next comes the filler rotation. The filler rotation is what you do when you're waiting for some of your bigger attacks to come off cooldown. For a fire mage, it's a lot of casting Fireball and using some of my other spells to try and get and utilize as many heating up and hot streak procs as possible. Try to keep an eye on when your big cooldowns will be ready again during this phase, as it can be important to start saving up charges of other spells before that happens. As a fire mage, I need to start saving Fire Blast and Phoenix Flame charges about 30 seconds before combustion comes off cooldown, because then it's time to enter the burn phase. The burn phase is a lot like your opening, except it's going to take place in the middle of the fight. This is the best time for you to use your second potion I mentioned earlier. Sometimes it can be a good idea to extend your filler phase for a few seconds if there is a particularly useful time in a fight to burn something down. But most of the time, you should head right into your burn phase as soon as you are ready in order to maximize your DPS potential. Holding on to your big cooldowns for more than a few seconds is a great way to sink to the bottom of the DPS charts. So, when your cooldowns are ready, get on that burn phase unless you have a really good reason not to. It's also important to note that your raid leader may at some point call for you to burn the boss. If you are in the middle of a filler rotation, you should ignore saving those charges and just give it all you've got. Most of the time it means the raid leader thinks you can kill the boss before a raid mechanic, berserk timer, or some other thing happens. So just do the best burn phase you can muster at that moment. In short, refining your opening, filler, and burn rotations will help you keep getting those deeps.
awesome. And our tank and address.
What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking in a dress? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking in a dress?
This week's Come At Me a Tanking Minute. How do I look? You know, back in the old days when you were tanking, you got to watch bosses' knees. Sometimes bosses' ankles, and as they got bigger, sometimes bosses' toes. Nowadays, though, they've improved raids substantially, and things aren't so out of scale that you actually get to look around and enjoy the environment that you're in a lot more. However, you're also required to. You really need to know in all of the Argus fights where you are in your boss fight arena. You need to know what's coming and where you're going to get to next. You have to be really fluid and flexible in terms of seeing your way around that environment. Now, I might be covering things that are very obvious for some of you tanks, but some of you might go, what? I didn't know that? And it's a new basic technique that's going to become your best friend. So the boss we've been talking about tonight, Portal Keeper, as a tank, you're going to have to be watching the boss, seeing what's going on, watching their cast bars, knowing what they're up to. You're going to have to move to avoid AoE, either the large circle or some of the lines that go on the floor. You have to be aware of the ads. Try to throw out an interrupt or disrupt them when they're there, or even call out if people may not be paying attention or seeing them. And you especially need to know where you are relative to where the next open portal is if you're going up there as a tank. So just looking at that list, you realize you've got to be able to see around all the time. And being able to know where you are in your environment and looking around in that environment is essential. Add to this, though, you're blocked by a boss. So it's sitting right in front of you very often. And what you're going to need to do is be able to look around and, in a sense, peek around. Now, the obvious thing that most of you know is the left click and hold move. And if you haven't played with that, Warcraft is going to be an entirely new experience for you. But it's so basic, I think most people would know that. You left click and hold, and you get to move the camera around. What I find, though, is a lot of people don't do that during the fight. They don't naturally look around as you would in the real world. So it's something that you really want to be practicing, both when you're doing questing or when you're running around doing something else in Azeroth or Worlds Beyond. Always be looking with your camera angle. Don't get lazy just looking at what's in front of you, but always be looking to the left, to the right, see what's coming, maybe even practice what's coming up behind you. Never hurts, especially if you're, say, a squishy mage. So you definitely want to use that left click and look around. Now, I also used to advise zooming in and zooming out, although that's getting a little more complicated and can be a little distracting during a fight. I used to have it to my mouse scroll wheel so I could zoom in and out, but since they've limited how far out you can zoom, which used to be fantastic for a tank, it's got limited utility to do that. But you might want to be aware of the buttons that you have keyed to be able to look in and look out and be aware of that environment. All of this needs to be instinctive. I hope I'm underlying that point. It's just got to be a natural part of what you do whenever you're in game, so that in a boss fight, you don't even think about it. You don't have to think about how am I going to look behind and see which portal's opening. It's just something you're going to automatically do. So one more obvious thing, if you don't know this one, this is one of my favorite tanking tricks. You are looking facing the boss. And then while you're doing that, and you know you need to move in another direction soon, change your camera angle so you're pointing where you want to go. And then when you need to, 2 mouse keys. Put them both together and you will run off in the direction that you are aiming. It is one of the slickest tricks to be able to face a boss in 1 second, and then the next nanosecond you're heading off in the direction you need to go. And that's the 2-finger mouse move. Put that in combination with one of your speed boosts, and you'll be zipping around that little boss arena like nobody's business. And that's how you look. For Come At Me a Tanking Minute, I'm Epistle.
And then there's...
Baby, you got the heals. Now heal and don't die, 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 die. Heal and don't die, 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 die.
So this week on Splash into Heals, we are going over Holy Paladins. Holy Paladins are the best tank and single target healers. This means they are the best with direct damage at a low cost of mana. Paladins can take a hit and keep on healing because of their utility and armor. They are the staple to every raid group and tend to top healing charts with the least overheals because they can heal upon injury and need to prepare for little. Their toolkit usually consists of things like Lay of Hands, which is a single target heal that takes it to their max health, which is that oh crap heal. They have Avenging Wrath, which increases their crit and their healing. They have Aura Mastery, and for healing, which it increases their heals by 100%. They have Tears Deliverance, which is their artifact, and it does high heal to injured nearby. They have great utility, like Divine Steed, which is a self-movement that gets them across the whole arena really fast. They have multiple cleanses. They can do poisons, diseases, and magic, which is pretty awesome. They have Blessing of Freedom, which is great to help them and their friends get out of movement impairment. The pros of being a paladin is they can cleanse multiple dots, so they can do all 3, like I said before. They're what I feel is the staple to every raid, because some people can do AoE and some people can hot, but they do everything in between. And they do those large heals in between, where the other heals might struggle with that. They have long sustainable heals at a low mana cost. It's kind of funny, for a long time, and even now, there are a lot of paladins that you just feel like they're the Energizer Bunny. They just go and go and go, and you're like, okay, are you ever gonna run out of mana? So it's kind of fun to do that. They also have a lot of utility to save the raid. So like those oh crap, the tank's dead moments, they can taunt and bubble. They can lay on hands and boom, lots of health to someone. Things like that. They also have high heals with little overhealing. One of the things I covered before was overhealing and how you need to make sure that you're not wasting your mana. And because they don't have to prepare for damage, they heal on contact. They don't have a lot of overhealing, so they just heal as needed. Some of the cons is that because they do so well on contact healing, they are not as good at AoE healing. They don't have that much in their utility for that, and they also don't have that much for HOTS. But I mean, they got a lot going on otherwise. So I hope that that helps you understand what a Holy Paladin can do for your raid and maybe turn you on to trying them out for yourself. If you have any questions about Holy Paladins, feel free to email me at lovesweetcharity@gmail.com or tweet me at lovesweetcharity. And tune in next week for Mistweaver Monks. And that has been this week's Splash into Heals.
That is so awesome. And, you know, for you fans, because this isn't a visual aid, she posts everything that she reads. And I'm just sitting here thinking of Epistle, and I always call him our tank and address. And she says that there was high heals with little overhealing, but she spelled heels like the shoe. And I'm just sitting there thinking,
Oh, no.
I'm sitting there thinking,
Why would you tell them that?
here's Epistle in his dress with high heels on. And I'm going, I'm never going back to Canada.
I think I heard her turn red and blush there when you said that.
Yeah, I heard her.
I'm sure one of us here is more straight-laced than the other.
Well, at the end of all of these, I will be posting every single one on our Facebook page as well.
There we go. All right, so up next, it's WFN News, Warcraft Stafford News. The Neither Disruptor is up next on the Broken Shores with Epic Hunter and Seal Your Fate. If you need seals, this is the week to get it.
Oh, I always do. Every time it comes up, I stock up my alts.
Yes. The weekly event is the Broken Isles World Quest. And the world tokens, they took a little bit of a jump, about 10 grand, about 12 grand actually. 184 from last week's 172, and that's in the States. Love is still in the air, and will be for a while. And so is the Dark Moon Fair this week. So go check them all out. Get that little Cupid doll pedal foot going and shooting arrows. Pedal foot. That's what I called it last week. So thanks everybody for coming. I want to thank Charm for her beautiful music. Go visit her website and her YouTube channel. They're listed in the description below. Plus BenSound at bensound.com and Vincent Moretto for our Metal Tavern music. Plus our new advertisers. Yay!
Yay, welcome.
Go check those guys out. They have a pretty good podcast. I listened to a couple of them. Not everything I was into, but they talk about everything nerdy, guys. So go check out them too. And if you want to advertise on our podcast, please go to advertisecast.com and just search for the Lions Pride Tavern. You'll see the prices and what it kind of take. So thanks everybody for coming, and we'll see you all next week.
See you next week.
Okay, love you. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, welcome to Lions Pride Tavern podcast number 74. Tonight we find out how 74. We did. Yeah. Tonight we find out how we did in this weekend's continuing raid of Antorus the Burning Throne. No, Antorus the Burning Throne.
It's not Antorus.
All right, let's try that again.
Wait.
Hey,